Nobody tried to save the girl, standing at the edge of the Black River. Not her alpha. Not the elders. Not the people whose lives she had spent years healing. Moments earlier they had called her a traitor. Moments earlier the man chosen by the moon goddess had rejected her before the entire kingdom. Now they were waiting to watch her die. Lyra looked at the raging river below. Behind her stood hundreds of warriors with drawn weapons. In front of her stretched freezing water no wolf could survive. Across that water stood something far more terrifying. An enormous black wolf. Scarred. Blind. Silent. The Alpha King's beast. The creature every child had been taught to fear. The monster that had slaughtered armies. The beast that had never crossed the Black River. Ever. The soldiers smiled. One scout laughed. Go ahead. Jump. If the river does not kill you, the beast will. Lyra never answered. She closed her eyes, took one shaking breath, and threw herself into the freezing current. The river swallowed her instantly. For one heartbeat, the valley became completely silent. Then the impossible happened. The giant wolf walked forward. One massive paw entered the water. The oldest scout dropped a spear. The alpha forgot to breathe. The queen's smile disappeared, because every wolf alive knew one truth. The beast would kill anyone, but it would never cross the river. Until that day, until her, the monster did not chase the condemned Omega. It followed her, and when it reached the opposite shore, it did something no living soul had ever witnessed. It lowered its head, as if the girl every kingdom wanted dead was someone it had been searching for all along. No one understood why. Not the Alpha who had rejected her. Not the Queen who wanted her buried forever. Not even Lyra herself. But somewhere beneath the snow, something ancient had just awakened, and before the sun set, the truth hidden for hundreds of years would begin tearing every wolf kingdom apart. The chains cut into Lyra's wrists long before anyone spoke her sentence. Cold iron bit through her skin as she stood in the center of the great stone courtyard. Snow drifted from the gray sky and settled across her tangled dark hair. The flakes melted against the warmth of her tears. Hundreds of wolves surrounded her in complete silence. Children clung to their mothers. Warriors gripped their spears. Elders lowered their eyes. No one stepped forward to defend the Omega healer who had spent years saving their wounded and comforting their dying. Today every grateful memory had vanished beneath one terrible accusation. Before the sun disappeared beyond the mountains, Lyra Ashwood would either be declared innocent or she would die as the greatest traitor her pack had ever known. The heavy gates opened with a deep groan that echoed across the frozen courtyard. Every warrior immediately dropped to one knee. Alpha Daemon Blackthorn stepped through the entrance with calm, measured strides. His black cloak moved behind him like a living shadow. Snow settled across his broad shoulders, but he never noticed. His sharp silver eyes remained fixed on only one person. Lyra felt the familiar ache inside her heart the moment she looked at him. The invisible bond between mates still existed, even if neither of them spoke of it. It had been there since the night of the Winter Moon Festival when their wolves had recognized one another. She had waited 2 long years for him to accept her. She believed the moon goddess simply needed time to soften his guarded heart. Now she understood how foolish hope could be. A soldier walked toward the Alpha, carrying a polished wooden box. He opened it before the entire crowd. Inside rested a tiny crystal bottle, stained with dark blue poison. The royal healer stepped forward with trembling hands. This poison was found inside the future Lunas chamber after Lady Serena collapsed. Another guard held up a folded gray cloak. This cloak belongs to Lyra Ashwood. The crowd erupted into whispers that spread through the courtyard like wildfire racing across dry grass. Lyra shook her head so quickly that tears scattered across her cheeks. That is impossible. Her voice cracked beneath the weight of fear. I never entered Lady Serena's room. I spent the entire night healing injured scouts. Please ask them. Please. Several scouts looked away without speaking. Not one of them stepped forward. Not one. A cold emptiness settled inside Lyra's chest. Someone had frightened them into silence. Queen Selene stood beside the council dressed in pure white fur that made her appear gentle and regal. Only the faint smile hidden behind her lowered gaze betrayed the truth. She watched Lyra like a hunter watching wounded prey. The council elder struck his staff against the frozen stone. Silence. The investigation has ended. Evidence proves beyond doubt that Lyra Ashwood attempted to murder the future Luna. The punishment for treason is death. Every heartbeat seemed to disappear. The world became strangely quiet. Even the wind stopped moving. Lyra stared at Damon with desperate hope. He knew her. He had watched her spend sleepless nights healing orphan pups. He had seen her risk her own life during winter storms to rescue injured wolves. He knew she could never poison anyone. Please. She whispered his name, so softly only he could hear. Damon. Look at me. You know I would never do this. For the first time since entering the courtyard, his expression changed. Pain flashed across his face. It vanished almost instantly beneath the cold mask of an alpha. His wolf growled inside him, demanding that he protect his mate. His heart whispered that something about this trial felt wrong. But another memory crushed every doubt. His younger sister lying lifeless upon a bed only months before. The same rare poison had ended her life. The same poison now rested inside that crystal bottle. He clenched his fists until blood stained his palms. The moon goddess chose you as my mate. His voice carried across the courtyard. But fate does not excuse betrayal. If you truly poison Serena, then you are no mate of mine. You are an enemy of this kingdom. Lyra felt something inside her break. Not her heart. Something deeper. Something that could never be repaired. She took one trembling step toward him. I loved you even when everyone called me worthless. I believed in you when no one else did. Please tell me you do not believe these lies. His jaw tightened. I, Damon Blackthorne, reject Lyra Ashwood as my fated mate before the moon goddess and before this kingdom. A sharp, invisible force exploded through Lyra's soul. She cried out as unbearable pain tore through the sacred bond. Her knees struck the frozen ground. The snow beneath her turned red where blood touched the ice. Gasps filled the courtyard. Even hardened warriors lowered their heads, unable to watch. Every rejected mate carried scars. Few survived the agony. Lyra pressed both hands against her chest, as though she could somehow hold the shattered pieces together. She could not breathe. She could not think. The only sound left in her world was the echo of the man she loved destroying the future they were meant to share. Queen Selene slowly approached and looked down with false sympathy. Such a tragedy. The moon goddess sometimes makes mistakes. Guards, prepare the execution. 2 soldiers grabbed Lyra beneath her arms and dragged her across the icy ground. Her boots carved long lines through the snow. No one protested. Not the elders. Not the healers she had trained beside. Not the children whose lives she had saved. Fear had stolen every voice. As the procession left the courtyard, a young servant girl suddenly broke free from the crowd. Miss Lyra! The little girl ran toward her crying, You saved my brother. Please do not leave us. Before she could reach Lyra, a guard shoved the child backward. She fell into the snow. Lyra twisted against her chains. Do not hurt her. Please. She has done nothing. The child reached into her pocket and threw something through the air. A tiny carved wooden wolf landed beside Lyra. It was the first gift the child had ever made for her. Lyra smiled through tears before a soldier kicked the toy aside. The execution march continued through the silent streets, toward the edge of the kingdom where the Black River roared beneath sheets of drifting ice. Every wolf knew the stories. Beyond that river stretched the forbidden forest. Beyond the forest lived the Alpha King's beast. No one crossed that land and returned alive. As Lyra reached the riverbank, icy wind whipped across her face. She looked at the dark, rushing water below. Death waited in every direction. Behind her stood the executioners. Before her waited the river. Beyond the river waited a monster. Then something moved among the snow-covered trees across the water. 2 pale eyes opened inside the shadows. A giant blind black wolf stepped into the fading light. Its scarred body stood motionless, its nose lifted toward the wind. Then slowly, with absolute certainty, it turned its face toward Lyra. And for the very first time, fear disappeared from her eyes. The freezing wind swept across the Black River and carried with it a silence so heavy that even the warriors forgot to breathe. Every pair of eyes remained fixed on the enormous black wolf standing across the rushing water. Its thick scarred fur rose and fell with slow, steady breaths. Snow gathered across its powerful back without melting. Its pale, blind eyes could not see the world before it, yet somehow they settled upon Lyra as though they had searched for her through endless lifetimes. The oldest executioner swallowed hard. Do not look at it. Do not make a sound. It never leaves the forbidden forest. One of the younger guards tightened his grip around his spear. Good. Then we finish this quickly. Lyra stood near the edge of the icy river with blood drying on her wrists where the chains had torn her skin. The pain inside her chest still burned from Damon's rejection. Every heartbeat reminded her that the sacred bond had been broken. It felt as if half of her soul had been ripped away. Yet strangely another feeling had begun to replace the emptiness. She could not explain it. The wolf across the river did not frighten her. Instead she felt something ancient pulling at her heart like an invisible thread stretched across the water. Behind her queen, Selene watched the beast with narrowed eyes. For the first time since the trial began a flicker of concern crossed her elegant face. That cannot be, she whispered so quietly that only the elder beside her heard. The curse should still hold. The old elder looked toward her in confusion, but she immediately hid her expression beneath another graceful smile. Alpha Damon stepped closer to the riverbank without taking his eyes off the beast. His wolf paced violently inside his mind. Every instinct screamed that something impossible was about to happen. He remembered every story told around winter fires when he was a child. The Alpha King's beast never crossed the Black River. It had guarded the Forbidden Lands for centuries. Entire armies had tried to lure it across. None had succeeded. The executioner raised a sword. Lyra Ashwood, you have been found guilty of treason against your Alpha and your kingdom. Your sentence will now be carried out. Lyra slowly closed her eyes. Not because she accepted death. Because she had nothing left to lose. The pack she served had abandoned her. The man she loved had shattered her heart before everyone. The home she built no longer existed. When she opened her eyes again, they no longer carried fear. Only quiet determination. She looked toward the roaring river. If I must die, then I will choose where. Before anyone realized what she intended, she spun away from the guards. The broken chains hanging from her wrists struck one soldier's face. He stumbled backward with a cry. Another reached for her cloak, but grabbed only empty air. Lyra ran. Snow exploded beneath every step. The executioners shouted. Archers lifted their bows. Damon reached forward instinctively. Lyra! Stop! She never looked back. The river thundered before her. Chunks of ice crashed against one another while freezing water rushed toward the distant mountains. No wolf could survive those currents. She leaped. For one endless heartbeat her body seemed to float above the roaring river. Then the icy water swallowed her whole. The crowd gasped together. Some believed they had just witnessed a desperate woman choose drowning over execution. Others believed the river itself had claimed another victim. Only the beast moved. It stepped toward the water. One massive paw reached the frozen bank. The scouts laughed nervously. See, it always stops there. It knows the curse. The wolf lowered its head. Its nose brushed the icy current. Silence spread across the valley. Then the impossible happened. The beast placed one paw into the river. A deep crack echoed beneath the ice. Another step followed, then another. The giant wolf walked directly into the rushing water. Every scout froze. One dropped a spear into the snow. An elder whispered an ancient prayer. Another fell to his knees. Alpha Damon stared without blinking. His entire childhood collapsed before his eyes. The oldest law of the northern kingdoms had just been broken. Queen Selene's smile vanished completely. No. She breathed. No. This cannot happen. The beast continued forward. The freezing current slammed against its enormous body, but it never slowed. Ice shattered around its legs. Snow swirled through the air. Its blind eyes remained fixed on only one destination. Lyra. Beneath the water, Lyra fought desperately against the current. Her lungs burned. Her heavy cloak dragged her deeper. The broken chains wrapped around a hidden rock beneath the river. She pulled with every ounce of strength she had left. Nothing moved. Panic filled her chest. This was how she would die. Alone. Forgotten. Rejected. Then a powerful force crashed through the freezing water. Massive jaws clamped around the chains instead of her body. One violent pull snapped the iron apart like dry branches. Strong fur brushed against her hands. The giant wolf pushed her upward. Lyra burst through the surface, gasping for air. She coughed violently while clinging to the thick black fur beneath her fingers. The beast carried her across the final stretch of the river as though she weighed nothing at all. The crowd watched in complete silence. Nobody dared speak. Nobody understood what they were seeing. The monster that had slaughtered invading armies for centuries had just rescued an Omega condemned to die. The wolf climbed onto the opposite shore with Lyra resting against its broad back. Water poured from its dark coat. Its powerful chest rose slowly. Lyra slipped onto the snowy ground and struggled to stand. She expected the creature to bare its fangs. Instead, it remained perfectly still. Its great head lowered. Its nose gently touched her injured hands. Warm breath flowed across her frozen skin. The bleeding stopped almost instantly. A faint silver glow spread beneath her fingers before disappearing into her veins. Lyra stared in disbelief. "You saved me." Her voice barely rose above a whisper. "Why?" The wolf gave no answer. It simply stood beside her like an ancient guardian. Across the river, chaos erupted. Warriors argued loudly. Some demanded the beast be hunted. Others insisted no one should ever challenge a creature protected by prophecy. The elders began speaking over one another. Every story they believed had just become meaningless. Alpha Daemon never heard a single word around him. His eyes remained locked on Lyra. She stood alive beside the very monster every alpha feared. Yet she looked safer than she had ever looked inside his own kingdom. Pain twisted inside his chest. For the first time, doubt pierced through his certainty. What if she had been innocent? What if he had condemned the wrong person? Queen Selene quietly stepped backward through the crowd. No one noticed her leaving. Her calm mask had disappeared. Fear now ruled her thoughts. If the beast had crossed the river, then the ancient prophecy had begun. And if the prophecy had begun, then only one possibility remained. The last daughter of the Moon Crown was still alive. She looked toward the opposite shore where Lyra gently rested one trembling hand upon the giant wolf. The beast lowered itself onto one knee before her. Every elder watching forgot to breathe, because only one person in all the ancient legends could make the Alpha King's beast kneel. The true queen of the wolves. And far beneath the snow, hidden for centuries in ancient stone marked with the forgotten royal crest, suddenly burst into silver light. The silver light beneath the snow pulsed only once before disappearing into the frozen earth. No one on the riverbank understood what they had witnessed. The elders looked at one another with frightened eyes. Warriors tightened their grips on their weapons. Queen Selene hid her fear behind another graceful smile, but inside her heart old nightmares had returned. A prophecy she had spent more than 20 years burying had just awakened with a single impossible moment. Across the Black River, Lyra stood in complete silence. Her soaked clothes clung to her body as freezing wind wrapped around her like invisible hands. Every muscle ached from the icy current. Her lungs still burned. Yet the terrible pain left behind by Daemon's rejection no longer consumed her thoughts. Something stronger had taken its place. Questions. She slowly looked down at the enormous black wolf kneeling before her. Up close it looked even larger than she had imagined. Thick battle scarred covered its powerful body. Old wounds crossed its shoulders like forgotten memories carved into stone. One torn ear bent slightly toward the wind. Its pale blind eyes never wandered. Somehow they always found her face. Lyra took a slow, careful breath. "You should not have saved me." Her voice was soft. "Everyone fears you." The wolf remained perfectly still. She reached out with trembling fingers. Every story she had ever heard warned that touching the beast meant certain death. Her hand rested gently against its neck. Warmth. Not cold. Not violence. Just quiet, steady warmth beneath thick black fur. The giant wolf lowered its head a little more, as if welcoming her touch. A strange feeling spread through her chest. Not the broken-mate bond. Something older. Something deeper. It felt like coming home to a place she had never seen. Behind them, the voices across the river grew louder. Archers began lining the riverbank. Several young warriors ignored the frightened warnings of the elders. They fitted arrows onto their bows. One shouted across the water, "Kill the beast before it comes back." The first arrow flew through the icy air. The wolf moved before Lyra even saw it. Its massive body stepped in front of her. The arrow shattered against its shoulder without leaving even the smallest wound. Another volley followed. Dozens of arrows darkened the sky. The giant wolf released a deep growl that rolled across the valley like distant thunder. The sound reached every warrior, every horse, every bird hidden among the snowy trees. Fear spread instantly. Several horses threw their riders into the snow. The wolves belonging to the soldiers tucked their tails beneath them and refused to move. Even Alpha Daemon felt his own wolf lower its head in silent respect. The arrows never reached Lyra. Some splintered in the air. Others bounced harmlessly from the beast's thick fur. The creature did not attack. It simply stood between danger and the woman it had chosen to protect. Alpha Daemon lifted one hand. Enough! His command echoed across the river. Every bow lowered. His eyes remained fixed on Lyra. She looked so small beside the enormous wolf, yet somehow she appeared stronger than she ever had inside his kingdom. A painful memory returned without warning. He remembered seeing her laugh while helping injured pups learn to walk again after winter sickness. He remembered the way every child smiled when she entered the healer's hall. None of those memories matched the murderer he had condemned. His heart began asking questions his pride refused to answer. Queen Selene stepped beside him. You cannot hesitate now. She spoke gently. The beast has enchanted her. She is more dangerous than ever. Daemon never looked away from the opposite shore. Or perhaps we judged too quickly. For one brief second Queen Selene's smile almost disappeared. Then she recovered. Mercy toward traitors destroys kingdoms. She quietly stepped back. Inside her mind another plan had already begun to form. If Lyra could not be executed publicly, then she would disappear forever. Across the river the giant wolf slowly turned away from the kingdom. It looked back once as though making certain Lyra followed. Then it walked into the endless forest. Lyra hesitated. Everything familiar waited behind her. Even if it had rejected her, everything unknown waited ahead. She glanced once toward Daemon. Their eyes met across the rushing river. She searched his face for regret, for apology, for hope. She found only confusion. That was not enough. Without another word, she turned and followed the black wolf into the silent forest. The trees swallowed them within moments. Snow covered every branch. Ancient pines stretched toward the gray sky like silent guardians. No birds sang here. No footsteps echoed except her own and the steady movement of the wolf ahead. Hours seemed to pass. The deeper they traveled, the stranger the forest became. Frozen statues covered in moss appeared between the trees. Broken stone pillars leaned beneath thick blankets of snow. Faded carvings showed wolves standing beside crowned kings whose names time had erased. Lyra slowed beside one weathered monument. She brushed away fresh snow. A silver crest appeared beneath her fingers. For reasons she could not explain, it looked familiar. Almost painfully familiar. The wolf stopped several steps ahead. It waited patiently until she caught up. You keep leading me, she whispered. But where? The creature simply continued walking. The sun slowly disappeared behind distant mountains. Golden light filtered through the forest until everything glowed softly beneath falling snow. At last the trees opened. Lyra stopped breathing. Hidden beyond the forest lay a valley untouched by the outside world. Crystal waterfalls flowed from frozen cliffs. Ancient stone homes rested beneath blankets of snow. Warm smoke drifted from chimneys. Children laughed somewhere beyond the nearest bridge. Real people, living here. Impossible. She took one careful step forward. Several cloaked warriors appeared instantly from hidden positions among the rocks. Their weapons pointed directly toward her. One tall man with dark hair stepped forward. His sharp green eyes first studied Lyra. Then they moved toward the giant wolf. His expression changed completely. He slowly lowered his sword. He dropped onto one knee. Welcome home, Your Majesty. Lyra blinked in confusion. You must be mistaken. I am no queen. The man smiled sadly. That is exactly what your enemies wanted you to believe. My name is Rowan. I have waited almost 20 years for this day. Lyra stared at him. I do not know you. No, he answered quietly. But I knew your mother. Silence settled between them. Lyra felt her heartbeat quicken. My mother died when I was a child. That is what they allowed you to remember. Rowan's words carried no anger. Only grief. The truth is much darker. Before Lyra could ask another question, the giant wolf walked past them toward the center of the valley. Every warrior immediately lowered to one knee. Not because of Rowan, not because of Lyra, because of the beast. It walked with quiet dignity through the hidden sanctuary as though it had returned to the place where it truly belonged. Lyra looked around in disbelief. Everyone here treated the terrifying creature with honor instead of fear. Rowan gently motioned toward a warm stone hall where firelight flickered through open windows. There is much you deserve to know. Who you are, why the beast crossed the river, why Queen Selene wanted you dead, and why the world will never stop hunting you again. Lyra looked once more toward the giant black wolf standing silently beneath the falling snow. Its blind eyes turned toward her. Then, without warning, the ancient mark hidden beneath the skin of her left wrist began to burn with silver light. The silver mark on Lyra's wrist burned brighter with every heartbeat. It was not the sharp pain of a wound. It was warm and alive, as though something buried deep inside her blood had finally awakened after years of silence. She instinctively covered it with her other hand, but the light slipped between her fingers and painted soft silver lines across the snow beneath her feet. Every warrior in the hidden valley lowered their heads. No one spoke. Even the children who had been laughing only moments before stood completely still. The giant black wolf remained beside the old stone well at the center of the sanctuary. Its blind eyes lifted toward the fading sky. A slow, deep breath escaped its chest. The valley itself seemed to answer. The frozen trees rustled though no wind touched them. Snow drifted gently from the branches and settled around Lyra like tiny white feathers. Rowan stepped closer. His voice carried quiet respect instead of excitement. The mark has accepted you. Lyra looked at him in confusion. Accepted me for what? Rowan smiled sadly. For the truth that has weighted your entire life. He slowly led her inside the largest stone hall in the valley. Warm firelight filled the room. Thick wooden beams stretched across the ceiling. Ancient banners decorated the walls. Each carried the same silver wolf crest Lyra had seen carved into the ruined monument in the forest. She walked toward one faded painting hanging above the fireplace. A young queen stood proudly beside a tall king dressed in silver armor. Between them smiled a little girl with long dark hair and bright silver blue eyes. Lyra froze. The child looked exactly like her. She took another step closer. Who is she? Rowan answered without hesitation. Princess Eliana, the last daughter of the Moon Crown. Lyra slowly shook her head. No, that cannot be. My parents were healers. We lived in a small village. Rowan's expression grew heavy. That is the story they gave you after the massacre. The truth began on a night covered in fire. 20 years ago, Queen Selene united several ambitious alphas beneath one promise: power. Together they attacked the royal palace. Your father died defending the throne. Your mother escaped carrying you through secret tunnels beneath the mountain. Only a handful of loyal warriors survived. We believed both of you had escaped safely. Weeks later, we heard your mother had been killed. You disappeared. We searched every kingdom, every village, every orphanage. Nothing. Selene erased every trace of the royal bloodline. Until today, the room fell silent. Lyra stared at the painting again. Small memories she had never understood suddenly returned. A lullaby, a silver necklace, warm hands brushing snow from her hair, a woman's voice whispering, "Never forget the moon always finds her child." She pressed trembling fingers against her forehead. Those memories had always felt like dreams. Now they carried the weight of truth. Before she could speak, another voice interrupted from the doorway. Then destiny has finally returned. An elderly woman entered carrying a carved wooden staff. Her white hair flowed almost to her waist. Bright golden eyes studied Lyra with quiet affection. Rowan bowed respectfully. "Mother Mira." The old woman smiled. "I have waited many winters to meet you, child." She gently reached for Lyra's glowing wrist. "The mark belongs only to the Moon Crown. No false blood can awaken it. You are exactly who prophecy promised." Lyra lowered her eyes. "I do not feel like a princess. I feel like someone who lost everything." Mother Mira softly touched her cheek. "The greatest rulers are born from loss, not comfort." Outside the hall, a deep howl echoed across the valley. The giant black wolf stood on a snowy ridge overlooking the sanctuary. Every wolf answered. Their voices rolled across the mountains like waves beneath the moon. Lyra stepped outside. The enormous beast slowly walked toward her. This time it stopped only a few steps away. Its scarred face lifted toward hers. The silver mark on her wrist glowed even brighter. Without thinking, she placed both hands against its broad forehead. A blinding light exploded around them. Images flooded her mind. A battlefield covered in fire. Thousands of wolves kneeling before a young king. The same black wolf standing proudly beside him. Then betrayal. Chains. Dark magic. A scream filled with unbearable sorrow. Finally the king disappeared beneath shadows while his body twisted into the form of a giant wolf. Lyra staggered backward. Her breathing became uneven. The beast remained perfectly still. Tears filled her eyes. You were never born a monster. You were cursed. The wolf lowered its head. For the first time she understood. The creature had not protected a queen. It had been waiting centuries for someone who could finally free him. That evening Rowan led her toward the training grounds hidden behind the cliffs. Dozens of warriors practiced beneath falling snow. Their movements were fast and disciplined. Rowan handed her a simple wooden sword. Your blood has awakened. Now your body must learn to keep up. Lyra gave him a doubtful look. I spent my life carrying herbs, not blades. He laughed quietly. Good. Then you have no bad habits to unlearn. The first lesson humbled her. She slipped. She stumbled. The wooden sword flew from her hands more times than she could count. Several younger warriors smiled but never mocked her. Every time she fell, Rowan offered another hand. Again. Hours passed. Her arms trembled from exhaustion. Sweat mixed with melting snow across her face. At sunset, Rowan attacked without warning. Pure instinct took over. Lyra stepped aside. Her body moved before her mind understood. She caught his wrist. Twisted. Rowan landed flat on his back. Silence filled the training ground. The warriors stared. Rowan blinked twice before laughing loudly. There she is. Everyone looked toward Lyra. She stared at her own hands in disbelief. How did I do that? Mother Mira watched from nearby. Because your body remembered what your mind forgot. Royal blood carries ancient instincts. Far beyond the valley, another pair of eyes watched from hidden cliffs. A hooded assassin quietly lowered a polished spyglass. He turned his horse toward the south without making a sound. Hours later the rider reached Queen Celine's fortress. He knelt before the throne. Your Majesty. She lives. Queen Celine slowly rose from her chair. And the assassin swallowed. The beast protects her. The sanctuary has accepted her. The silver mark has awakened. For several long seconds the queen said nothing. Then she smiled. A slow, dangerous smile. Prepare every loyal army. Send word to every hired blade. Burn every village that hides her. I want the sanctuary erased from the mountains. No survivor. Not even a child. As the assassin hurried away, she walked toward the palace window. Snow covered the kingdom beneath the moonlight. She rested one hand against the cold glass. Soon, little princess, you will finally join your parents. Back in the hidden valley, Lyra suddenly placed one hand against her stomach. A strange wave of dizziness passed through her. She frowned. Mother Mira noticed immediately. She gently took Lyra's hand, closed her eyes, then looked up in complete silence. Her expression slowly changed from confusion to astonishment. Before Lyra could ask what was wrong, the old healer whispered words that stole the air from the night. Child, you are not alone. The words settled over the valley more heavily than the falling snow. Lyra stood without moving, as though the world had suddenly forgotten how to breathe. The crackling fire from the nearby training grounds faded into the distance. The voices of the warriors disappeared. Only Mother Mira's gentle hands remained wrapped around her own. Lyra searched the old healer's face, hoping she had misunderstood. What do you mean? Mother Mira smiled with quiet warmth. It is still very early, but there is no mistake. A new heartbeat grows beside yours. Lyra slowly placed both hands against her stomach. She felt nothing. No movement. No sign. Yet tears gathered in her eyes before she even understood why. A child. After everything she had lost. After being rejected before an entire kingdom. Life had somehow chosen to begin again inside her. Fear quickly followed hope. She lowered her voice. How is this possible? The mate bond was broken. Mother Mira nodded. The bond between hearts can be destroyed. The beginning of life cannot. The child was conceived before the rejection. No power can erase that. Lyra closed her eyes. Images returned without warning. The winter moon festival. The quiet forest. The night daemon had finally accepted the pull between their wolves, even if only for a few precious hours. He had promised nothing. They had spoken little. Yet beneath the silver moon they had belonged only to each other. That single night had left behind far more than memories. She opened her eyes again. No one must know. Mother Mira understood immediately. Not yet. If Queen Selene learns there is an heir carrying royal blood, she will send every assassin in the kingdoms. Rowan stepped closer after seeing the worry on their faces. What happened? Mother Mira looked toward him. The prophecy has become even more dangerous. She carries the future. Rowan's expression hardened. Then the valley must become a fortress. That same night, every entrance into the hidden sanctuary changed. Hidden tunnels were sealed beneath heavy stone. Lookouts climbed the surrounding cliffs. Fires were covered before sunset, so no smoke could reveal their location. The warriors who had once trained openly now disappeared among the mountains like silent shadows. The sanctuary was preparing for war. Lyra refused to remain hidden inside the great hall. Each morning she continued training before sunrise. The wooden practice sword soon became steel. Her movements grew faster with every passing day. She learned to read the snow beneath an enemy's feet. She learned to fight without wasting strength. She learned to trust instinct instead of fear. Whenever exhaustion threatened to overwhelm her, the giant black wolf appeared beside the training grounds. It never interrupted. It simply watched. Its silent presence gave her courage she could not explain. One snowy morning, Rowan attacked her from behind without warning. His blade flashed through the cold air. Lyra twisted. Her body moved almost effortlessly. She stepped beneath his guard and gently pressed the edge of her sword against his chest. Rowan laughed. 3 weeks ago, you could barely hold a blade. Now you nearly defeated me. Lyra smiled for the first time in many days. Maybe you are becoming slower. He grinned. Or maybe you are finally remembering who you were always meant to become. Far away inside Blackthorn, another battle unfolded. Alpha Daemon stood alone in the royal archive, surrounded by old records and sealed reports. Sleep had abandoned him since the day Lyra crossed the Black River. Every quiet moment brought back the image of the beast stepping into the freezing current. It made no sense. Nothing about that day followed the ancient laws. His doubts grew stronger each night. He pulled another dusty report from the shelf. It contained every witness statement collected after Lady Serena had been poisoned. One page caught his attention. The testimony of a stable boy. The report claimed the child had seen Lyra leaving Serena's chambers before midnight. Damon frowned. Something felt wrong. He searched deeper until another document slipped from between the pages. The original statement. His heartbeat quickened. The handwriting had been altered. The boy had actually written something completely different. He had seen a woman wearing white fur leave Serena's chambers. Not Lyra. White fur. Queen Selene wore white fur every winter. Damon's blood ran cold. At that same moment the stable boy was brought before him. The frightened child trembled so badly he could barely speak. Damon knelt, so their eyes met. "Tell me the truth. No one will harm you." The boy burst into tears. "They made me lie. A lady from the palace said my parents would disappear if I told anyone what I really saw." "Who?" The child whispered the answer. "Queen Selene." The room became silent. Damon stepped backward as though struck across the face. Every memory of Lyra pleading for him to believe her returned at once. Her tears, her shaking voice, her broken heart. He had rejected an innocent woman. His mate. He closed his eyes. For the first time in his life, shame outweighed pride. Back in the hidden valley, spring slowly began touching the mountains. Small patches of green appeared beneath melting snow. Streams flowed freely again. Life returned to the sanctuary. Lyra's pregnancy remained their most carefully guarded secret. Only Rowan and Mother Mira knew the truth. Even the warriors believed the extra care around her came from royal tradition. One evening Lyra walked alone beside a quiet lake hidden deep inside the valley. The giant black wolf emerged silently from the trees. She smiled softly. "You always know where to find me." The beast lowered itself beside the water. Its reflection shimmered across the surface. Lyra sat beside it. For several peaceful minutes, neither of them moved. She rested one hand against her growing stomach. "I wish you could speak. I have so many questions." The wolf slowly lifted its head. Its pale eyes met hers. Without warning, a faint silver light surrounded its body. The air itself seemed to ripple. Lyra stood quickly. The enormous wolf staggered as though fighting an invisible force. Its muscles tightened. Bones shifted beneath thick black fur. For one breathtaking heartbeat, the outline of a tall man appeared within the light. long black hair, broad shoulders, a strong, weathered face marked by countless battles, dark gray eyes filled with sadness. He reached one trembling hand toward Lyra. His lips moved. One single word escaped them. Lyra. Then the light shattered. The human form vanished. The giant black wolf collapsed onto the ground, breathing heavily. Lyra rushed to his side. Her hands gently touched his scarred neck. Tears filled her eyes. You are still in there. You are fighting. The beast closed its eyes as if exhausted by the effort. Before another word could be spoken, a warning horn echoed across the valley. Once, twice, 3 times. Every warrior grabbed their weapons. Rowan sprinted across the bridge toward them. His face carried an expression Lyra had never seen before. The outer watchtower has fallen. Our scouts captured one of the attackers. He carried royal orders. Lyra felt cold despite the warm spring air. Rowan met her eyes. Queen Selene knows someone is hiding here, and I fear she is closer than we ever imagined. The warning horns continued rolling across the hidden valley until every corner echoed with their urgent cry. Warriors rushed through the narrow stone paths with shields raised and swords drawn. Children disappeared into underground shelters. Fires were covered. Gates carved into the mountainside closed one after another with deep, thunderous sounds that shook the frozen cliffs. Lyra stood beside Rowan as captured scouts dragged a wounded stranger into the center of the sanctuary. His black cloak was torn from climbing over sharp rocks. Blood stained one shoulder where an arrow had pierced him before he was captured. Even through the pain, he smiled with dangerous confidence. Rowan looked directly into the stranger's eyes. Who sent you? The man laughed. You already know. Queen Selene always finishes what she begins. Rowan remained calm. How many soldiers wait beyond the mountains? The prisoner stayed silent. One of the younger warriors stepped forward in anger. Tell us. The man slowly turned his head toward Lyra. So this is the lost princess. You look disappointingly ordinary. Before another word left his mouth, the giant black wolf appeared from behind the gathered warriors. It walked without hurry, without sound. The air itself seemed to grow colder as it approached. The prisoner stopped smiling. Fear spread across his face. He tried pulling away from the guards, but his chains held him in place. No. Keep that thing away from me. The wolf stood only a few steps away. Its blind eyes remained fixed on the man. It released one low growl. Nothing more. The prisoner broke. There are 500 soldiers hiding in the eastern pass. More are coming. The queen hired rogue packs from the southern kingdoms. She promised them your valley. She promised your heads. Silence swept across the sanctuary. 500 soldiers. That was only the beginning. Mother Mira quietly closed her eyes. War has found us. Rowan nodded. Then we prepare before sunrise. Throughout the valley, men and women worked without rest. Stone walls were strengthened. Hidden tunnels were checked once again. Food and medicine were moved into protected shelters. Lyra refused every request to remain inside the great hall. She carried supplies beside everyone else. She treated wounded scouts. She sharpened arrows until her fingers became sore. No one saw a frightened princess. They saw a queen already carrying the burdens of her people. Late that night, Rowan found her sitting beside the frozen lake where the giant black wolf rested nearby. He lowered himself onto the snow beside her. You have not slept. Neither have you. He smiled faintly. Leaders rarely do. For several moments, neither of them spoke. The stars reflected across the dark water like scattered silver coins. Finally, Rowan broke the silence. There is something you deserve to know before the war begins. Lyra turned toward him. Go on. He looked down at his hands. The night your family was attacked, I was only a boy. My father served your father. He died protecting the royal gates. Before he fell, he placed you in my mother's arms. We escaped through the western tunnel. Your mother was already wounded. She knew she would never survive. Lyra felt her heartbeat slow. What happened after that? Rowan's voice became softer. She kissed your forehead, placed a silver pendant around your neck. Then she begged my mother to hide you where no one would ever search. The next morning your mother surrendered herself to the queen's soldiers. She wanted them chasing her instead of you. Lyra closed her eyes. A tear slipped quietly down her cheek. She died believing I would live. Rowan nodded. She saved the future that night. Not just her daughter. The kingdom itself. The giant black wolf slowly opened its eyes, and looked toward the eastern mountains. Its ears lifted. Then it stood. Every muscle in its massive body became tense. Something was coming. Far away inside Blackthorn, Keep Alpha Daemon stood before the entire council. Every noble and commander watched him with uncertain expressions. Queen Selene sat beside the throne wearing her usual calm smile. Daemon placed the altered witness statement upon the council table. This investigation was built upon lies. Whispers spread across the chamber. Queen Selene remained perfectly composed. "What are you suggesting?" Daemon looked directly at her. "I am no longer suggesting. I am accusing." The room fell silent. The stable boy has confessed. The evidence was changed. The witness reports were rewritten. Lyra Ashwood never poisoned Serena. Someone wanted me to reject my own mate. Queen Selene's expression finally hardened. "Careful, Alpha. False accusations destroy kingdoms." Daemon stepped closer. "Then answer one question. Why were your personal guards outside Serena's chambers that night?" The queen said nothing. The council members slowly turned toward her. One elder frowned. "Is this true?" Before anyone could react, the great hall doors burst open. A battered messenger stumbled inside. Blood covered his clothes. "Your Majesty, the Eastern Army has already marched." Queen Selene quietly closed her eyes for one brief moment. The messenger continued. "The attack on the Hidden Valley has begun." Daemon felt the words strike him like a blade. Hidden Valley. Everything suddenly connected. The beast. The prophecy. Lyra. Without another thought, he turned toward the doors. "Gather my warriors." One commander looked confused. "Your Majesty." The queen has already ordered every soldier to join her campaign. Daemon faced them with eyes colder than winter itself. "I gave no such order. Anyone who follows those commands follows a traitor." Half the commanders immediately knelt. The others hesitated. Civil war had begun inside the kingdom before a single sword had been raised. Back in the sanctuary, the first flames appeared beyond the eastern cliffs just before dawn. Entire sections of forest burned beneath black smoke. War horns echoed across the mountains. Rowan climbed the highest watchtower. "They have arrived. Thousands. Not hundreds. Thousands." The Hidden Valley erupted into motion. Archers filled the stone walls. Healers prepared bandages. Children disappeared underground. Lyra stood at the center of the sanctuary wearing silver armor for the first time. It fit perfectly, as though it had been made only for her. Mother Mira fastened the final clasp. "Your mother wore this on the day you were born." Lyra gently touched the ancient wolf crest across the chest. "Then today I will wear it for her." The giant black wolf walked beside her. Warriors stepped aside as it passed. Its scarred body looked larger than ever beneath the rising sun. The eastern gates shook violently. Enemy battering rams struck the stone. Again, again, again. Cracks spread across the ancient entrance. Rowan raised his sword. "Hold the line." The first gate exploded inward beneath a storm of splintered wood. Enemy soldiers flooded through the opening with deafening battle cries. The valley became chaos. Steel clashed against steel. Arrows darkened the morning sky. The giant black wolf leaped directly into the invading army. One sweep of its massive body sent armored warriors crashing through the snow. Lyra fought beside Rowan. Every lesson she had learned came alive. She moved with calm precision. Not reckless. Not afraid. Each movement protected someone standing beside her. Each strike pushed the enemy farther from the sanctuary. Then everything changed. A sharp cry echoed above the battlefield. "Mother Mira!" Lyra turned instantly. Several masked assassins had slipped through the fighting. They ignored every warrior, every soldier. They were running toward the underground shelters where the children were hidden, and one of them held a small silver cradle wrapped tightly beneath a dark cloak. Mother Myra's terrified voice shattered through the battle. "They know about the child." Mother Mira's cry tore through the battlefield like lightning across a winter sky. Lyra did not hesitate. Her sword fell into the snow as she ran toward the underground passage. Nothing else mattered. Not the burning walls. Not the enemy soldiers. Not even the arrows falling from above. Every heartbeat carried only one terrifying thought. Her child. The masked assassins disappeared into the narrow stone tunnel beneath the sanctuary. Their footsteps echoed through the darkness. Torches along the walls flickered wildly as cold air rushed behind them. Lyra followed with desperate speed. Rowan shouted her name from somewhere behind, but she could no longer hear him above the pounding of her own heart. One assassin turned and threw a knife. Lyra twisted at the last possible moment. The blade scraped across her shoulder and struck the stone wall behind her. Pain flashed through her body. She ignored it. The tunnel suddenly opened into a large underground chamber where dozens of frightened women held crying children close to their chests. Panic spread instantly. The assassins moved through them without mercy. One reached toward the silver cradle hidden behind Mother Mira. The old healer stepped in front of it. "You will not touch him." The assassin struck her with the hilt of his sword. Mother Mira collapsed against the stone floor. The cradle slid across the ground. The tiny baby inside began to cry. The sound froze everyone. Lyra reached the center of the chamber at that exact moment. "No!" Her voice echoed like thunder. The nearest assassin grabbed the cradle. He smiled beneath his dark mask. "The Queen sends her thanks." Before he could take another step, the giant black wolf crashed through the stone entrance behind Lyra. Rock shattered beneath its massive weight. Its roar shook dust from the ceiling. Every child stopped crying. Every assassin turned. Fear replaced confidence. The beast crossed the chamber in one enormous leap. The assassin carrying the cradle never even saw it coming. The wolf struck him with one powerful shoulder. The man flew across the room and crashed into a stone pillar. The cradle slipped from his hands. Lyra dove forward. She caught it only inches before it struck the ground. Her knees slammed against the cold stone. She pulled the tiny child against her chest. For the first time, she truly looked into his face. Small silver blue eyes blinked up at her. Eyes exactly like her own. Tears filled her vision. "My son." The words escaped before she could stop them. The giant black wolf stood protectively before her. Its scarred body blocked the tunnel entrance. None of the remaining assassins dared move. Outside the chamber, the sounds of battle continued growing louder. The sanctuary was still under attack. Rowan rushed inside with a group of warriors. The surviving assassins were quickly surrounded. One of them suddenly laughed. "You are already too late." Rowan frowned. "What do you mean?" The prisoner looked directly at Lyra. The Queen never needed the child. She only needed to confirm he existed. Silence fell across the chamber. The assassin continued smiling despite the swords pointed toward his throat. "By sunset, every kingdom will know the lost princess lives. They will know she carries the last royal heir. There will be nowhere left to hide." Before anyone could question him further, he bit down hard between his teeth. Blood filled his mouth. Moments later he collapsed. "Poison." Rowan cursed beneath his breath. The others checked the remaining assassins. Every one of them carried the same hidden poison. Not a single prisoner survived. Lyra looked down at the sleeping child in her arms. His tiny fingers wrapped around one of hers. The warmth of his touch calmed the storm inside her heart. Mother Mira slowly stood with Rowan's help. She smiled through the pain. "He is beautiful." Lyra nodded. "His name is Aiden." The old healer touched the baby's forehead. "A fitting name. Little Fire. Because one day he may become the light this world desperately needs." Before anyone could answer, another explosion shook the sanctuary. Dust poured from the ceiling. A young scout ran into the chamber completely out of breath. "Rowan, the eastern wall has fallen. Enemy soldiers are flooding into the valley." Rowan immediately turned toward the warriors. "Protect the women and children. No one enters this chamber." He looked at Lyra. "Stay here." She slowly shook her head. "No. These people have protected me since the day I arrived. Now I protect them." She handed Aiden carefully to Mother Mira. "Please keep him safe." Then she picked up her sword once more. The moment she stepped outside the underground shelter, the battlefield looked completely different. Smoke covered the valley. Several stone houses burned fiercely. The mountain stream had turned red where wounded soldiers lay beside its banks. The defenders were retreating toward the central square. Enemy banners now flew above the broken eastern gate. At the center of the battlefield stood Queen Selene. She had finally arrived. She wore shining white armor beneath a long winter cloak. Dozens of elite guards surrounded her. She looked untouched by the fighting, almost peaceful. Her cold eyes found Lyra immediately. "There you are." Her voice carried easily across the valley. "The child who refused to die." Every warrior paused. Even the fighting slowed. Queen Selene slowly removed her gloves. Do you know why I hunted you for 20 years? Because your father was weak. He believed wolves from every bloodline deserved peace. Peace creates soft rulers. Fear creates obedient kingdoms. Lyra tightened her grip around her sword. You murdered innocent people for power. Selene smiled. Power always demands sacrifice. She slowly turned toward the gathered enemy soldiers. Raise your heads. Look well. She pointed directly at Lyra. This woman is not merely an escaped Omega. She is Princess Eliana of the Moon Crown, the last surviving daughter of the Royal Bloodline. A loud wave of shocked voices spread across the battlefield. Even many enemy soldiers looked toward Lyra in disbelief. Some had grown up hearing stories about the lost royal family. Others believed they were nothing more than legends. Queen Selene raised her voice even higher. Kill her today, and every kingdom belongs to you. Keep her alive, and you will all kneel before another queen. For several long seconds no one moved. Then something unexpected happened. An elderly warrior from the enemy ranks slowly lowered his sword. He stared at Lyra with tears filling his eyes. I remember your father. One by one other older warriors looked at each other. Another removed his helmet. Another stepped backward. Another lowered his spear. Confusion spread through Queen Selene's army. Her calm expression cracked for the first time. Cowards! She shouted. Obey your queen. The elderly warrior looked directly at her. You were never my queen. He walked across the battlefield and knelt before Lyra. Others followed. Not all, but enough. The valley fell silent as soldiers from both sides watched the impossible unfold. The forgotten bloodline had returned. And for the first time in 20 years, wolves were choosing loyalty over fear. Far above the battlefield, the sky suddenly darkened, though no storm had been expected. Silver light broke through the clouds and fell directly upon Lyra. The mark on her wrist blazed brighter than ever before. Across the valley, the giant black wolf lifted its head toward the heavens. Its body became surrounded by swirling silver light. The air itself trembled. Every warrior looked on in stunned silence, because the ancient curse had begun to break. Silver light poured across the battlefield until the snow itself seemed to glow beneath every warrior's feet. No one lifted a weapon. No one dared breathe, too loudly. Every eye remained fixed upon the giant black wolf standing beside Lyra. The ancient light wrapped around its scarred body like flowing water. The air trembled with a power forgotten by time itself. The wolf threw back its head. A long, powerful howl rose into the dark sky. The sound crossed mountains. It swept through frozen forests. It rolled across distant kingdoms. Every wolf, who still carried the old bloodline, stopped where they stood and listened. Some bowed without knowing why. Others felt tears fill their eyes. The forgotten king had called. The silver light grew brighter. The wolf staggered forward. Its body shook as though invisible chains were breaking one by one. Lyra rushed toward it. She placed both hands against its neck. Stay with me, please. The light exploded around them. For one endless heartbeat, the valley disappeared beneath pure white brilliance. Then silence. When the light slowly faded, the enormous black wolf was gone. In its place stood a tall man with long black hair resting across his shoulders. His gray eyes carried the weight of countless centuries. Old battle scars crossed his strong chest and arms. He stood barefoot upon the snow as though winter itself could no longer touch him. The entire battlefield forgot how to move. The man slowly looked down at his own hands. His fingers trembled. He closed them into fists. Then he lifted his eyes toward Lyra. A quiet smile appeared for the first time in hundreds of years. You remembered me. His voice was calm and deep. It carried sorrow, hope, relief. Lyra stared at him with tears filling her eyes. Kale. He nodded. For centuries, I waited for the daughter of the Moon Crown. Not because prophecy demanded it, because only your kindness could free a soul trapped by hatred. Without warning, Kale dropped to one knee before her. Every warrior watched in stunned silence. My queen, I am yours until my final breath. The wolves surrounding the battlefield lowered themselves together. Thousands of voices disappeared beneath one sacred moment. Queen Selene clenched her fists until her nails drew blood. Enough! Her scream shattered the silence. Archers! Kill them both! Hundreds of arrows flew through the air. Before they could reach Lyra, another force entered the battlefield. A wall of dark wolves burst from the surrounding forest. They moved like shadows across the snow. They were rogues, mountain packs, northern guardians, wolves that had remained hidden for generations. They stood between the arrows and their true queen. The sky filled with broken shafts as the attack failed. Another war horn echoed from the western ridge. This time the banner was black and silver. Alpha Daemon rode at the front of thousands of warriors. His soldiers spread across the valley and surrounded Queen Celene's remaining army. He climbed from his horse without drawing his sword. His eyes searched only for Lyra. Every step toward her carried the weight of unbearable regret. He stopped several feet away. For a long moment neither of them spoke. Snow drifted quietly between them. Finally Daemon lowered himself onto one knee. The proud Alpha, who had never bowed before another ruler, placed his head before the woman he had once rejected. His voice broke as he spoke. I believed lies. I chose pride instead of trust. I destroyed the one person the moon goddess chose for me. There are no words worthy of forgiveness. I ask for none. I only ask for one chance to help protect the kingdom I failed. Silence surrounded them. Every warrior watched. Many remembered the day Lyra had begged him to believe her. Now the Alpha who had broken her heart stood broken himself. Lyra looked at him for several long moments. The pain inside her chest no longer burned like before. Time had changed it. It had become a scar instead of an open wound. She spoke softly. You cannot change what happened. No. Daemon answered. I cannot. She continued. You rejected me, before everyone. You left me to die. He lowered his head even further. I know. Another long silence followed. Then Lyra took one step closer. When I needed someone to believe me, you looked away. Today I do not hate you. But I no longer belong to the future we once imagined. Daemon closed his eyes. A single tear fell into the snow. He accepted her words without argument, without excuse. Cale quietly stepped beside Lyra. Not as a rival, not as a victor, simply as the man who had chosen to protect her when no one else would. Queen Selene watched the scene with growing fury. Her armies were falling apart. Many soldiers had already thrown down their weapons. Others refused to fight against the returned royal bloodline. Her years of careful planning were collapsing before her eyes. She slowly reached beneath her cloak. Hidden there rested a black crystal carved with ancient runes. Mother Mira saw it first. Her face turned pale. Lyra, move. Selene lifted the crystal toward the sky. Dark smoke exploded from its surface. The ground shook violently. Deep cracks spread across the valley floor. Ancient stone beneath the sanctuary split apart with deafening force. From beneath the earth rose a massive circle of black stone covered in forgotten symbols. At its center rested an old silver crown untouched by time. Every elder gasped. The throne of the first kings. Queen Selene laughed. You think blood alone makes a ruler. Then let the old magic decide. She reached toward the crown. The moment her fingers touched it, a blast of silver fire threw her backward across the battlefield. She crashed into the snow with a cry of pain. The crown remained untouched. No one moved. No one dared approach. Mother Mira slowly whispered through tears. It only accepts the true ruler. Queen Selene struggled back to her feet. Her elegant armor was cracked. Her face twisted with rage. She pointed at Lyra. Go then. Take it, if you dare. Lyra looked toward the ancient crown. Something inside her heart answered its silent call. She began walking. Every step felt strangely familiar. As though countless generations walked beside her. The valley became completely still. Even the wind seemed to stop. She climbed the ancient stone platform. The silver mark upon her wrist shone brighter than the morning sun. When she reached the center, the crown slowly lifted from the stone without anyone touching it. It floated gently through the air, then settled upon her head. The instant it touched her hair, a brilliant wave of silver light burst across the valley. Every wolf lowered itself before her. Every ancient banner hidden throughout the sanctuary unfurled together. High above the battlefield, the clouds separated. Moonlight poured down despite the daylight sky. Then an ancient voice echoed across the mountains. Soft, gentle, yet powerful enough for every soul to hear. The queen has returned. Far beyond the battlefield, a small child hidden safely inside the sanctuary suddenly opened his silver-blue eyes. Little Aiden smiled toward the sky, and a faint silver mark appeared upon the tiny palm of his hand. The voice faded into the mountains, but its power remained in every heart that had heard it. No one questioned what had happened. No one searched for another explanation. The ancient crown rested upon Lyra's head as though it had never belonged to anyone else. Silver light flowed through the valley and washed away the smoke of battle. Warriors from every kingdom lowered their weapons. Wolves that had been snarling only moments before now stood peacefully beside one another. It felt as though the land itself had finally taken its first calm breath after generations of suffering. Queen Selene slowly climbed to her feet. Her beautiful white armor was broken. Blood ran from a cut across her forehead. The hatred inside her eyes had not weakened. It had grown. She stared at Lyra with the fury of someone watching an entire lifetime of ambition disappear. "You think this is over?" She laughed softly. "Then you know nothing about power." She spread both arms toward the dark sky. The black crystal still lay where it had fallen. Thin streams of black smoke continued rising from its cracked surface. Selene spoke ancient words that no one present recognized. The earth answered. The valley shook with violent force. Massive cracks spread across the frozen ground. Ancient stone pillars collapsed. Snow rolled down the surrounding cliffs in roaring white waves. The mountain itself had begun to break apart. Mother Mira looked toward the highest peaks. "Everyone move. The cliffs are falling." Panic spread through the battlefield. Warriors rushed to pull wounded soldiers away from the collapsing stone. Parents searched desperately for their children. Horses broke free from their reins. The peaceful silence vanished beneath the roar of the mountain. Lyra stood her ground. The silver crown upon her head shone brighter with every heartbeat. She slowly raised one hand toward the trembling earth. The ancient mark upon her wrist answered. Silver light spread outward in every direction. It reached the broken cliffs. The collapsing stone slowed. The roaring avalanche stopped only moments before reaching the sanctuary. Thousands watched in complete disbelief. The mountain had obeyed her. Queen Selene screamed with rage. "Impossible." Lyra looked directly into her eyes. "No. This is what true power looks like. Power protects. It does not destroy." Selene lifted a sword from the snow and charged forward. Her speed shocked everyone. Years of hidden training made her faster than most alphas. She struck with all the fury she had carried for decades. Lyra met the attack. Steel rang through the valley. Neither woman stepped backward. Their blades flashed beneath the silver light. Every strike carried years of pain. Every movement told the story of two completely different rulers. One fought to keep power. The other fought to protect those she loved. Selene attacked again and again. Her anger made every blow heavier. Lyra remained calm. She remembered every lesson Rowan had taught her. She trusted every instinct her royal blood had awakened. Finally, Selene lunged one last time. Lyra turned. The attack slipped past her shoulder. One smooth movement carried her behind the queen. Her sword gently touched the older woman's neck. The battlefield became silent. It was over. Selene slowly closed her eyes. "Do it. Kill me. Become exactly like every ruler before you." Lyra lowered her sword. "No." The queen turned in surprise. Lyra looked at her with quiet sadness. "You spent your entire life believing fear creates loyalty. You were wrong. The people chose me freely. No execution will ever change that." Rowan stepped forward with several warriors. They placed iron chains around Selene's wrists. This time the queen did not resist. For the first time since anyone could remember, she looked truly defeated. As she was led away, she stopped beside Damon. She smiled bitterly. "You still love her?" Damon watched Lyra from across the valley. "Yes." Selene laughed quietly. "That will hurt more than death." She disappeared among the guards without another word. The valley slowly came back to life. Healers moved among the wounded. Families embraced one another through tears. Children laughed after believing they would never see another sunrise. The long nightmare had finally ended. Cale walked toward the ancient stone platform, where Lyra still stood wearing the moon crown. His human form looked strong yet peaceful. The burden of centuries had vanished from his face. He stopped before her. "Because of you I remember what it means to hope." Lyra smiled gently. "Because of you I survived long enough to discover who I truly was." Cale reached for her hand. This time there was no curse, no invisible barrier. Only warmth, only truth. Far across the valley, Damon quietly watched them. The pain inside him remained, but something else had replaced his jealousy. Acceptance. He finally understood that love could not be demanded after trust had been broken. He walked toward Lyra one final time. She looked at him calmly. He bowed deeply, not as an alpha, not as a former mate, as a loyal protector. My queen, if you will allow it, Blackthorn will stand beside the moon crown from this day until my last breath. Lyra rested one hand upon his shoulder. Rise, Alpha Daemon. The past cannot be changed, but the future belongs to those willing to protect it. He stood with tears quietly filling his eyes. Thank you. It was more mercy than he believed he deserved. As the sun slowly disappeared beyond the mountains, preparations for a new coronation began. Representatives from every surviving kingdom gathered inside the restored sanctuary. The ancient banners of the moon crown once again hung proudly above the great hall. Mother Mira carried little Aiden into the ceremony wrapped in soft white fur. The child looked peacefully around the crowded hall as though he recognized every face. When Lyra took him into her arms, the entire gathering smiled. The kingdom that had nearly vanished now had a future. Rowan stepped forward, carrying an old silver sword that had belonged to Lyra's father. He knelt before her. The royal line stands restored. One by one, every alpha followed, even Daemon. Finally, Kale knelt before her, then slowly rose. He looked into her eyes, not as a guardian, not as a king, as the man whose heart had waited through endless winters. Will you allow me to walk beside you? Not because prophecy commands it, but because my heart chooses you. Lyra looked at the people surrounding them, at the child sleeping peacefully in her arms, at the man who had protected her when the entire world had turned away. She smiled through happy tears. Yes, the hall erupted with joyful voices. Outside, thousands of wolves lifted their heads together. Their united howl rolled across the mountains beneath the rising moon. High above the sanctuary, the clouds slowly parted. A single beam of moonlight rested upon little Aiden. The baby suddenly opened his eyes. The tiny silver mark upon his palm began to shine brighter than ever before. Mother Mira looked closely, and her smile slowly faded into astonished silence. She whispered words that only Rowan standing beside her could hear. The prophecy was never about one ruler. It was about two. The child gently reached toward the moonlight. Then, for the briefest moment, the outline of a great silver wolf appeared within the sky, watching over the United Kingdoms before fading into the stars.